it's going to be diminishing returns, exactly, and we're never going to get that kind of feeling of like the new console like blowing you away again.
Yeah, just that was kind of like one of the key things. I just felt like, okay, like this is where gaming was going. Like I didn't feel like, oh yeah, like this is just leaps and bounds above. But we could go into graphics forever, and Nathan especially. I know Nathan could. But yeah, but overall, I was pretty impressed with the conference. So yeah.
Fair
Just
enough.
real briefly, I mean, I promise I won't gush too much about the graphics point much further, but to sort of give you an idea of how far graphics has to go, you look at during the original PlayStation, what CG movies look like. I mean, you had like Toy Story, and then a little later on, you would have like Ants from DreamWorks, and you could see like this huge gap between what real-time graphics was doing and what pre-rendered CG graphics is doing. And that gap is shrinking more and more, and to the point now where, as Brian was saying, like I mean, what Randy was saying, this looks pretty much like what you see in Hollywood now. Where's the gap? I mean, as far as uh, the end goal, we've almost achieved it already. Like I said earlier, graphics is this is like the generation where graphics is just going to stop mattering. People are just going to take it for granted and not even look at it at the technical side anymore.
Right, right. Yeah, I unless we adopt a new way of making video games that gets rid of the polygon, I really don't know how we're gonna ever be wowed again.
I
um,
was just showing that Rayman footage just because it's like, well, people are gonna still care about graphics for Wii U anyways. But
burn. Yeah,
that
well,
burn.
they make stuff out of yarn, so
They
it's
make stuff
okay.
out of yarn and it's really
They don't play
fun.
by the rules, man.
But you know that yarn is awfully realistic looking.
Oh,
It's
it's
very
really nice
realistic
yarn.
looking yarn.
1080p demographics.
Um,
Anyways, we've
all
clearly
right.
hit the tail
So
end.
how did you guys feel about the games that were featured? I think we all agree that like Watch Dogs stood out. Is there anything that you wish they would have shown? Anything you think that shouldn't have been shown? How do you guys feel overall? Let's start with Brian.
Um, Overall, there wasn't anything I wasn't expecting, but there wasn't
Yeah.
anything I really felt like, oh, they didn't show this. Um, just, and I think that's just because the timing of it is, we still have GDC and E3. They
I
won't
would
show
have loved
anything
to
at,
see Last Guardian though.
yeah, Last Guardian, that was the one thing, that I wish we could have seen. That's the only Sony project game that I want to see, and if they're saving that for E3, I think that's a very good move for them.
Right.
I think showing it at this event would have been a mistake. So
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a rumored comeback for Crash Bandicoot, and obviously, you know, Naughty Dog. What? Why are you guys laughing? That could
A
be
rumored
awesome.
comeback for Crash Bandicoot, man. I mean, okay.
You guys,
it'd be
you
all
guys are
right.
gonna be blown away by the next Crash Bandicoot. You will believe he has fur.
Oh
Um,
man.
but Uncharted 4 or something like that. You know, like I mean, like not. I think there's something that Naughty Dog is definitely working on because I was talking to Randy earlier. Naughty Dog is like two teams now. They released Uncharted 3 uh, uh, over a year ago, and now the other team is releasing The Last of Us, and then they're. I just want to see what they're working on. I think that's going to be something that they can
Nathan
show.
just brought up an interesting point. Naughty
What's
Dog,
that?
they're still holding out on us.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
they are.
I think that's an E3 thing.
That's Yeah. There's some people that I'm now thinking about. They're holding back, but I was still satisfied.
Oh yeah, I'm saying that is there anything more that felt like lacking? Obviously there is stuff that they are holding back, and Naughty Dog's like the obvious like thing. Like
Yeah, I
Naughty Dog
think
is their flagship like third party developer.
Yeah, I honestly feel like anything they were holding back for E3, and it didn't. I didn't feel upset about that. I was like, well, the next Xbox is gonna be there, and they're gonna have to, still wow people because,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I with the games they showed, I just don't think there's that breadth of games that I was hoping for. Like everything I saw was just like, yeah, that's your shooter. Yeah, I know about shooters. I know about third-person action games. Yeah, you got your game that kind of looks like Ratchet and Clank. Like I didn't see anything. It's like, oh my god, I have to play that game. I saw a lot of pretty games, but I didn't see a game like aside from maybe Watch Dogs that I have to play.
Honestly, it's been a long time since we had a system launch with, oh my god, I have to own that. And to be fair, I think that this conference had more game footage than I expected because I honestly expected a lot of tech demos that we already saw.
Graphs, a lot of graphs.
A lot of graphs, a lot of, hey, this is PlayStation's legacy. Here's some footage of The Last of Us.
Here's our install base over the years.
Here's the failing sales of the Vita. But I mean, I think that actually it was a pretty positive showing of games. Maybe not stuff that's like must-haves, but they did show things like particularly footage from even like cross-platform games that we haven't seen before. So it was a good conference in terms of game footage. Maybe not a lot of out there announcements, unexpected surprises in that regard, but I wasn't totally disappointed.
All right. Well, let's see here. Aside from before we get into a more involved here discussion, do you think that Sony gave consumers a good reason to purchase the PlayStation 4 come release time, probably this holiday season? Just given what we know right now.
Too early to tell, to be honest.
Brian, you were going to say something?
His mic is on mute.
His mic's on mute.
About that. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way where it was, it's still a little too early to tell. Like when they give me the release date, the games
And
that
the
are coming
price.
out, the price, then I'll probably get excited. Then I'll probably end up waiting 6 months. That's just the nature of the
Needs
beast.
more information.
Needs
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that might turn me off from wanting to be day one adopter with the system, because I'm kind of a tech whore anyway, and honestly, I know there's probably going to be some awesome games. Maybe not at launch, but even launch games, we still have a lot to reveal yet. But if they announce like some really crazy subscription model where you have to pay an exorbitant monthly fee to use a lot of the features, like I know Gaikai, just with the network stuff, it's probably going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Microsoft, one of the reasons I was not a super huge fan of the 360 is just because of that paid subscription model, just to do virtually anything involving the net. And I don't expect Sony to be quite that restrictive, but the ball's in their court in terms of how they set that mark.
Beautiful. And speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about Microsoft and how they should be responding to this. First of all, with the streaming, I think having Gaikai in their favor puts them at a big advantage as far as what they're able to do inside the streaming and cloud gaming. Do you think Microsoft has any chance of even coming close to the features that Sony's touting?
Yeah, I mean, I did touch on this at the beginning of the show, but I do think that this is something that Microsoft, they have a large part of their business where they deal with networking and they do a lot of that kind of stuff. But setting up a cloud gaming service with low latency and a way to allocate resources automatically is just a non-trivial task. I mean, it just requires a huge undertaking. Honestly, a lot of the features they're just not going to be able to replicate. I mean, they're going to have streaming. I'm positive of that. But streaming is different from Gaikai. When you're just uploading a video to Facebook, that's not the same as having a game streaming over the internet or through your Wi-Fi.
And what do you guys think about like the fact that Ustream was the sole streaming service that they stuck? They didn't talk about Twitch TV, which is gigantically popular. They didn't talk about possibly using like YouTube.
I'm biased
Do you think
because we're using Twitch right now.
use Twitch TV? What do you guys think? Do you think that that's something that's exclusive to Microsoft, or
I just
just
want
they
to
use
point out,
Ustream?
I love that smile that Brian always has when he shows his face. It's like he can't just make a
Like a
appearance. He
like a
has to have
shit-eating grin.
he
Like,
has to have that
hey.
he has to have that look on his face like he just had the most awesome alcoholic beverage. Um, uh, but yeah, honestly, I think there's a lot yet to be announced in that regard. I swear they mentioned something other than Ustream. I thought at least like Facebook was mentioned at some point, as others are saying that Ustream was the only one. So, but I think that there's more services that they have yet to announce, and certainly this is something that even over the course, even after the launch of the system, they can continue to add more services in that regard. Twitch TV may be added at some point. You never know.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that came from this conference, aside from the Gaikai stuff, is the issue of RAM. From what we've heard from industry rumors, is that Microsoft is going to dedicate so much of their RAM to services, and hearing that now that PlayStation has 8 gigabytes of RAM available, that has to bother them to a certain extent, because I think Microsoft and Sony have two very different ideologies of what it is to be a gaming console. I think PlayStation very much believes that it's a gaming console, whereas Microsoft believes it's a media device that happens to play games. And if the way they're cutting up their RAM is definitely giving like 3 gigabytes to services, that's gonna make a big effect in how at least hardcore people decide which is the better console to play games on, especially cross-platform ones.
Well, there's a couple of reasons why I'm skeptical about that 3 gigabyte rumors. First of all, after Sony made this announcement, Microsoft may be scrambling to free up as much memory as they can for games, and they're going to be doing some damage control when they announce the console. You may not even see a spec sheet because
I imagine that there's like some Microsoft exec somewhere like calling up some production line in China. He's all, stop it all, stop it all. Like they're ordering new RAM. They're like redesigning it on the fly.
NeoGAF had some really awesome GIFs showcasing kind of the contention that might possibly arise from. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the memory, I mean, we're not just talking the amount of memory, because Sony, the rumors are that Sony is trying to make a very streamlined, efficient OS that doesn't take up much space. They might dedicate more now that they have twice as much. You know, the rumor was only 512 megs was going to be used in the OS, but you know, they might bump that up to 1 gig now because they have to run a web browser and stuff.
They got it spare.
But the speed of the memory too is a non-trivial matter. You're trying to share DDR3 memory with the graphics chip in the next Xbox, and that is not very fast memory, especially for graphics. I mean, I honestly wonder what kind of optimizations and stuff they're going to have to work around that. I think that's going to be a huge performance issue if they don't have a real solution for that.
Fair enough. Brian, what do you think?
Sucks. No. Yeah, I don't I don't know. Microsoft, they're definitely gonna be like, they're a lot more intensive on the Xbox Live experience, or at least the dashboard experience, and you know, all this stuff that's going on top of the game, and their main focus doesn't seem to be so much on the gamer anymore. So as far as their direction, I wonder if, because they're not going to change they're just not going to change their tech if they're going to release this year. So
they're kind of stuck.
So they're kind of stuck. So they might market it a different way, like it's an entertainment system, and maybe cut the price by like $50 or something.
Yeah,
that's a tough situation to be in, though, because I think consoles are realizing, especially like in the case of like Nintendo, is you have to appeal to hardcore gamers if you want these things to get off the ground day one.
Yeah, I mean,